Hello, and we are live. Welcome to episode 3 of the Creative Coffee Cafe. I am your host, Brooke with Creative Eye Marketing and Social Media. And today, with a wonderful conversation this morning, I was able to convince this Tabitha to join me today. And I've asked her to be a part of the chat today because Tabitha comes to us with over 12 years of social media marketing experience. And as far as our quick little chat was, like, you were probably one of the first people to be hopping on board with podcasting and even doing this marketing thing on the internet. So, yay!
Yay! Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself. We had a chance to chat ahead of time, so give us the 411 on who Tabitha is and what you do.
So the internet knows me as Tabs. So if anybody is looking for me on the internet, it's Tabz Tabs. My roommate in college gave me that nickname. But yeah, I've been doing social media for 12 years. I started off really wanting to use my plethora of jack of all tradeness. I loved photography and Photoshop and design and marketing and all these things. And I was like, there has to be a job where I can do all these things. So my very first job out of college was doing graphic design. And I was like, yes, but I missed the writing aspect of it. So I found an internship, and it was very early on. There was no Twitter yet. There was no Facebook, obviously. And,
oh my God, I don't even remember a world without.
It was really funny too, because I was talking to my best friend about it, and we were like, we were out of college when Facebook launched to college kids. And so we kept hearing about this Facebook. And we're like, what? Anybody beyond that? It's all college kids. Friendster was huge. MySpace was huge. And that was about it. So I joined and really loved the idea of connecting with people. I had started on the internet when I was 12 on AOL forums, if you remember those back in the day.
I was even a part of that.
They were early message boards in AOL, and I was a big mystery fan, and I had found other mystery fans, and we had like this whole like storytelling thing going on these message boards. So I knew enough about the internet to be dangerous and how to connect with people. And thankfully, I got to do that as my career. I got to use that connection ability with people, and have worked with some big brands, including fashion, Bombay Sapphire Gin, which is great. And then I worked for Fox TV on things like the last season of American Idol on Fox and stuff like that.
I'm loving American Idol. Right now, American Idol and both The Voice are on, and I get mad because they put them on different channels at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So we're back and forth all the time trying to catch them.
That's great.
That's really cool. So what exactly did you do with Idol? If you can share with us, like
yeah. So I was with Fox, which they wanted. I had a team. There was a team of 8 of us who were community managers. Each of us were in charge of the social media for one or more puppies. They're fighting over a bone that I gave them earlier. One or more shows, but we also worked with everybody else. So American Idol, the final season on Fox, now it's on another network. It was huge. And there were four or five people every night just to answer Twitter comments.
That's crazy. I believe it though, because, you know, as soon as they probably added the vote for people through, you know, Twitter and Facebook and like all that other stuff, probably would have just blown that up completely. And there's no way that just a few people could handle that.
Yeah. And the other thing is to know is Fox, the ratings system in the United States, the Nielsen ratings, is tied to Twitter. So if you can get a lot of people talking on Twitter, it actually bumps up your rating. So when we would do it, somebody would be posting as American Idol on the Twitter feed. Somebody else would be replying to anybody who added just @ symboled American Idol. Somebody else would be on the hashtag that they were using, and somebody else would be just searching if you just typed American Idol in your tweet.
That's crazy.
I had a feed up that was just the hashtags, and I'd be like, thanks, we like it too, you know, that kind of stuff to reply to people.
Yeah. That just shows, like, to me, that's just the power of social media and being real time, responding quickly, like, and sometimes people, I don't think, realize the depth and the amount of people it takes to pull that off sometimes, right? And so,
yeah,
you know, we forget about that. We sometimes, a lot of us have our own little small businesses, but, you know, big businesses are doing it and small businesses are doing it too. But that's kind of neat to hear a little bit.
Yeah, the craziest night I had was I did, Pitbull does a New Year's Eve special every year on Fox. And so I was replying to people and I was making GIFs as the show was running. So as it was running, I was using a software that could capture the little spits of video, and then I was posting these GIFs of the people dancing or whatever, because that was taped live, so we didn't have it beforehand.
Totally, yeah. Talk about content creation on the fly.
It really was. It was like, can I grab this and then, like, you know, make sure I do this and make sure I do that. And it was frantic, and I loved every minute of it, but it was just like crazy.
I was going to say, a lot of us get overwhelmed sometimes when we just have to create one or two pieces of content. From somebody who's probably like just obviously bombarded with a lot of things coming at them at once. Like, how did you kind of focus on that? Did you just kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say wing it, but just, did you call upon your inner social media marketer tuition to just be like, get me through this next little while?
Yes, I had phone phobia after Fox, because my phone would be going off all the, like, it was muted, but I could just see, like, there's tons of notifications, because, you know, if you post something as New Girl and as American Idol and as, you know, all these things, it's just like constantly all the time going off, because there's fans all over the world. And so there was no lull in my notifications. So it got a little overwhelming, but I was able to focus on the things that mattered the most to Fox. So the things that mattered the most to Fox were Twitter, because of the Nielsen ratings, and making sure that that the community never got abused or spammed, or people were like attacking other people and things like that. Those were the things that were important to them. Right. So all the other craziness, I was able to, plus content creation obviously was huge for them. They gave us all of the pieces of content, and we created the captions and things to make sure that it was used correctly. So I got the most engagement and stuff like that. So it was a lot of work, but a lot of it was just making sure that you were organized enough to know what's going on where.
No kidding. And you would have to be, otherwise it would just probably make me curl up into a corner in the fetal position.
Well, the great thing about that was the company that I worked for with Fox is called Laundry Service, and there was a team, right? There was 8 other people that I could ask for help, or, you know, jump on this, can you do this? And that was a fun experience to have that team of people that were experts like me that I could talk to and work with.
Exactly. Well, that's really fascinating. That's cool. Well, thanks for kind of giving us a little behind the scenes.
Yeah. So
that wasn't even anything that we had talked about beforehand, but
no. So now I have left the corporate world, and I have my own business doing social media for. I really wanted to help. Baltimore is where I live right now, and if you know anything about Baltimore, it's a town that is wonderful and has some stuff going on, and so I want to help local businesses here in Baltimore, because you know, they just don't have the resources or time or energy to do stuff like social media.
Exactly. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on today, is because I feel like there's a lot of our small business people, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs who, like we had mentioned before, are the jack of all trades. They are the chef, dishwasher, you know, head washer, chef,
right,
server, and hostess, and all that stuff too. So. Right. So let's talk a little bit about, well, the other reason I wanted to bring you on today is you like to focus on the organic social media marketing, which I am also a huge fan of. And for those that are watching and listening and aren't really sure exactly what we mean here, organic social media is the free stuff, right? It's the non-paid. You're not spending any money to boost your or do ads or anything like that. It's the ability to create reach and impact and engagement without spending money. Right. So the organic reach is important, and it's something that we have to be more strategic about lately because of the algorithms making it a little bit more difficult. I think Tabitha is a bit of an expert in that. So that's some of the things we're going to chat about here today. Because you work with a lot of nonprofits. So these are people who typically do not have the funds to do a lot of marketing, paid marketing or anything, right? Michael is joining us today, and he says, cool. I think he's responding to the American Idol stuff.
It was cool. Yeah, obviously I have a heart for helping people. I'm passionate about helping people. If you have a huge passion, I want to work with you. So it comes out the most in nonprofits, I found, because nonprofit people love what they do, and they're doing it because they love what they do, for the most part. And for example, my last full-time job I had, I worked with a wonderful organization called the Baltimore Station, which is here in Baltimore, that helps homeless veterans who have substance abuse problems. So loved what they did. Obviously, their budget should go to those guys, not to marketing and advertising and things like that. So I loved building up their fan base of people who could know what they're doing, how they're doing it. They had a huge success rate. They had 76% of the people that go into the program have a home and a job after the year after they graduate. So, which is huge for the VA. That's unheard of.
And it's very important work. And like you said, you don't want them spending their budgets on marketing and promoting their fundraising efforts. So thankfully they found somebody like you who was able to, pitch in and volunteer as well. So what were some of the cool things you did for them then? Or it doesn't even have to be them. You don't have to be specific, but what were some of the cool things that maybe you were able to create or generate in order to build, because we were talking about building a tribe, building advocates and people who believe in your message and what you're doing?
Yeah. So Seth Godin has this theory, and I didn't even know about it until recently, that if you have 1,000 fans, you can pretty much rule the world. So one of the things I love to do is to build, I call them a cult because somebody derisively called mine a cult at one point. And I thought, oh, that's cool. Yeah, that kind of my cult.
Well, cult doesn't have to be a negative word, but typically it's used in a negative way, right?
Right. So I like helping people find their fans, find their people that are going to be their supporter, their core audience that will love them no matter what. And I'll support them and be the advocates on their page and kind of just take over and do that stuff. And a lot of that came out of podcasting world. So I started podcasting around the same time that I started media stuff. And the early podcasting world was very much like a let's help each other out and let's be super fans of each other. And because of that, I know 3 or 4 people that got like publishing deals because of their podcasts, because they had these super fan bases that would be like, yes, we will buy anything that you do because we support you. We've connected with you. And one of those guys was Scott Sigler, and he got like a New York Times bestseller book, and his fans are called junkies. So you might be an original junkie.
Again, typically a negative term, but used in a positive way.
I mean, these guys are getting like tattoos of his artwork, and like, it's just, it's amazing to me. My fans would go around to other conventions and tell people that I enjoyed and loved, oh, hey, Tab says hi, like that kind of power and influence is amazing to me. People would come up to me and start talking about my cats, and I'm like, I don't know who you are. That's nice.
So how do we kind of do that? How do we start to create our own little mini cults or tribes or believers or whatever?
Believers, yes. The first way to do that is, and I think you and I both agree, is to tell your story well. Everyone has a story. Your story is amazing, even if you don't think so because you've lived with it so long. the fact that you are here on this planet is for a purpose and for a reason, and you have something cool to offer to people. I love, my dad grew up in rural Wisconsin, and he tells a story about riding on a tractor with this guy named Ollie, who was a farmer and the most least technologically minded person on the planet. But he had such an impact that my dad remembers this story 45 years later about riding on this tractor with Ollie. And that kind of, cool people, you're a cool person, even if you don't think so, is what informs how I do social media. So if you show up and you show how cool you are and how awesome you are and how amazing you are, and how different you are, then people will kind of be attracted to that. And the people that are attracted to that will become your tribe or believers.
Right. It really isn't about trying to appeal to everybody. It's
no.
And we're a part of a group that's huge advocates in that whole thing too. And it's this is who I am. You have to be real. You have to speak your truth. You have to be authentic, and do that. Do you. And the people that don't like it, they'll leave, and that's fine, because they weren't really meant to work with you anyways. But the people that relate to you, and are curious to know more about what you do or whatever, then they will follow you. And then, that's how you start to create these followings and these tribes and stuff, correct?
Yeah. The same thing happens in a larger scale with celebrities, right? So a lot of movies are made around a person. So Matt Damon is making a movie. I love Matt Damon. I will go see Matt Damon's movie. My husband does not like Matt Damon. He will never go see Matt Damon movies. That's, it's okay. Matt Damon does not care that my husband doesn't like him. He still gets paid. So same thing. You just have to think of yourself like Matt Damon in a smaller scale. The people that love you are going to be there and support you and buy your stuff and be supportive of your business. And the people that don't will go somewhere else, and that's fine.
So that's the tip I'm going to put up here. Tip, be like Matt Damon. I think I spelled his name right.
Yes, I think you did.
Day's tip, be like Matt Damon. Because you're right. They are focusing on what they love to do and what they want to do. And they really don't care about they don't care about counting how many likes they get on their posts or how far the reach is on, their Snapchat accounts and stuff like that, because I guess that they get to the point where their fan base is so large that it really doesn't matter and it's hard to keep track. But I try and tell people to stop getting caught up on the vanity metrics.
Yes. So here's my number one piece of advice if you're a small business owner, and actually if you're a large business owner. The thing that blew my mind, and it kind of explained how I thought of vanity URL metrics, things like that, was this. Would you rather have $200 bills or 200 pennies?
Would you rather have $200
bills?
Bills, okay.
Or 200 pennies?
Right.
You want the $200 bills because they're more money.
$200 versus $2.
Right. But there's only two of them.
Correct.
So maybe you following you or your page, but they're the people that are actually going to give you money. That is more important than having 200 people that are following you and give you no money.
Yeah, that's a much nicer way of putting it than what I typically say. I usually tell people in my workshops and stuff that would you rather have 100,000, or I can't remember what that exact number is, 100,000 we'll use for today. Would you rather have 100,000 fans following your page because you did a contest or something like that and basically, gated them into liking your page, have a huge fan base of people that just don't give a shit about what you do? Or would you rather have 100 people on your page that are interested in you or, want to buy your stuff and, like you said, become the advocates for you? And yeah, I would rather go with the 100 over the 100,000 any day.
Right.
And not just because of the quality. Well, it is quality, but it plays into this Facebook algorithm too, right? Mm-hmm. That you need to have people who engage with you in this relationship building, networking atmosphere in order to be seen and be heard on an organic level, right? Which is what we were kind of talking about. So
for anybody who doesn't really understand the algorithm thing, it's basically there's a computer program that Facebook has created that tries to keep you on Facebook for as long as possible. Because if you stay on Facebook, then you will spend more money on Facebook and you will give them more of what they want. And the computer program says, oh, Brooke, you like photos, and you like photos from tabs, and you like photos from tabs and this business page. I'm going to show you those first. And I'm going to keep giving you stuff that you like. And so if we can train your page to give stuff that people like, then your stuff will be seen more. And it's a weird concept for people to understand, but it's like 90% of what I'm doing right now is trying to figure out Facebook's algorithm and why it's changing and why it's doing this and why it's doing that. But really just think of it as like a way that you are getting higher and higher up in the viewing circus. Because the average person,
I like that, the viewing circus.
The average person, the amount of content, if you logged into Facebook at any time, the average person has more content to scroll than the height of the Statue of Liberty. So if they just sat there and did it by when things were posted, you would never finish. You would just be, endlessly there. So Facebook is trying to figure out a way for you to see stuff that you actually are interested in.
That's right. Yeah. And that's why, Zuck has mentioned before that, they're putting friends and family first right now and conversations and stuff too, because they don't want you going to, and it can be any social platform because they all kind of have their own algorithms, right? If you log on to your favorite social network and all you're seeing is stuff you're not interested in, or you're being bombarded with ads and salesy stuff, then it diminishes your experience online, and therefore you won't spend as much time there. So they're trying to make sure that we are happy people and enjoying our time there. So then us as marketers just have to be smarter and more strategic about how we fall in line with what people are interested in their newsfeed, right? So what are some of
people like people?
Like people. We talked about that too, like the human factor, right?
Yeah.
About working with other humans and not working with larger corporations or people who tend to feel like robots.
Yeah. So I was talking to Brooke about part of this millennial craze. Like you'll hear about, millennials have killed coffee shops and millennials have killed this. And the cool thing is millennials are some of the most thoughtful people when it comes to spending their money. They want to help support nonprofits. They give a lot to nonprofits, a lot of their percentage of their income. And so they like helping support smaller businesses. And they're going to be the people, especially for you that have a smaller business, they're going to be the people that really can come in and help infuse your business with customers, because they want to help Brooke. They don't want to help Brooke's flower shop. They want to help Brooke. And so if they get to know you and they're like, oh, Brooke is great, and she also pays her staff really well, and she sources, local flowers versus killing rainforests, that kind of stuff will increase and encourage them to come in and buy.
Yeah. Well, and when we were talking about this, I said I like to be devil's advocate. And so I'm going to be the one that says, well, I feel like millennials are wanting to always shop online, and they're just going to buy the quickest, cheapest, easiest thing. And they're not necessarily going to support local, but you have a different take on that. So
yeah, so millennials like convenience. They would rather have, somebody buy their groceries for them and bring them than them going to the grocery store. But they still want stuff that's ethical, free trade. They want to support local small businesses because they've saved time on the big things like their laundry and their grocery shopping and things like that. They'll come into a smaller specialty grocery store to buy the local salmon or the, whatever that is. They want to do that kind of stuff. So if you can tell a story that's like, I, for example, one of my clients is a local businesswoman, and she is a teacher, and she has a small side business. People like supporting her because she's doing this cool thing as a side business, to help support the fact that she's teaching. And teachers don't make a lot.
Right.
So people enjoy that and they want that story. And then they're like, oh yeah, and she makes cool stuff, so I will buy it from her.
Right. But she's been able to kind of, I guess, attract those people and whatever through sharing her story. And I find that lots of people have a hard time, and I'll be the first one to admit, sometimes I have a hard time sharing my story because, like you said, it's ours. It's boring. It's boring to us. We don't necessarily feel like we're anything special. So any tips or tricks on how we can find our inner storyteller? And
so there's a couple. Yeah, there's a couple ways to do that. Obviously, if you can hire somebody to sit there and listen to your story and then tell it back to you. And that's actually what public relations is. That's like the very first step of public relations, is that I learn about your business and I learn about what you're doing, and I can tell you back what your story actually is. If you can hire somebody, that's great. Or if you can't, sit down with some people and say, what do you know about me? What do you know about my business? How would you explain my business? And through that, you can start getting some ideas about what your business is from the people that either buy from you, or the people that know you, or your husband or wife or partner or whatever. Because hearing it reflected back to you is easier than just trying to come up with it in your head by yourself. That's true. I've done that a few times too, with even when I'm trying to figure out my ideal customer avatar and things like that, like get to the point in the questionnaire where it asks you about some of your strengths and personality traits. It's hard to come up with that for yourself. So then you just go to Facebook and you're like, hey guys, what's 2 or 3 words you'd use to describe me? Right, exactly. Kind of the same idea. Awesome. So another thing I wanted to touch on with you today, besides the organic posting and ways that we can, I guess, be more human and share a story, is let's talk a little bit about Facebook groups, because you have your hands in that as well. And so I feel like my audience maybe wants to know, well, what's the difference between a Facebook page and a Facebook group? Who would benefit from having a Facebook group? And why should I give a shit about even trying to start one and things like that? So let's talk about that a little bit. Yeah. So your Facebook page is, most people know what that is. It's the business page that says Sheila's Upcycling Business. It's my neighbor. It's called Sheila's Finds. So Sheila's Finds is a page, and it's almost, if you want to really go old school, it's almost like your entry into the Yellow Pages on Facebook. Yeah. And it's something that's dynamic, and it's a website kind of vibe instead of an ad. So it's ever changing. I can go in and say my hours are now 9 to 4 instead of 9 to 5. I can put my latest offer. I can put pictures of what I'm selling, all that stuff. You know, that's what the page is. A group is kind of a conglomeration of people that we've put into one section of Facebook. So they're not, you know, my friends, but I can talk to them and they can post and we can all talk together, kind of like a forum. Yes. So we were saying in our chat before that you can create meaningful conversations, and you can create brand advocacy and all that stuff through your page. But you believe that it goes one step further with customer service and further relationship building in a group. And you feel that's because as soon as people are in a group, suddenly just being underneath that group umbrella just makes them feel more like they're, it's a group. I don't know what else. Whether they feel more part of the whole, right? So if I'm on your page and I'm talking to you as a business owner, maybe we're having like a really good conversation back and forth. So I'll use my neighbor, for example. Sheila's Finds. There are people now that ask her to find things for them because they know Sheila, and they will go on her page and they'll talk to her directly and say, you know, do you have any Corningware? Do you have any this? Did you find any? Because she goes to all these estate sales and stuff like that. Do you have like a rocking horse or a rocking chair? Like, you know, that's the conversation. They have a relationship, and they're doing that on her page. a group would be, not only would we go and talk about like the latest things that Sheila has found, and, you know, I would go on and talk to Sheila and say, you know, do you have a rocking chair? And maybe she'll say no. And then, you know, Brooke is also in the group, and Brooke goes, oh, I saw one at blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, you know, it's becoming a community versus just one-on-one or one-on-two or one-on-three thing. Because then I see that Brooke knows a little bit about social media, and she saw something on this other Facebook group. And, you know, it's a way for all of us to interact. And therefore, because Sheila is the queen of that group, I feel more and more connected to her, because not only did she bring cool stuff into my life, she brought Brooke into my life. She brought this into my life. And so now I'm like a super fan of Sheila, and I know more of her story, and I know more of what's going on. And I feel more connected to Sheila because I'm in this private group talking to her and to other people that love her.
Right.
And it's like, oh, wow, we all love Sheila.
Other like-minded individuals, because like those conversations can happen on a Facebook page, but your page, and the way you discovered, or the way you had described it earlier, was your Facebook page is for discovery, and for starting to build that know, like, and trust factor.
Right.
But if you were able to incorporate a Facebook group into your business marketing plan, I guess, you would start the conversation on the page, invite people into the group, and that's where it becomes sort of a club, like a VIP first class customers and clients club sort of thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And we had talked a little bit about why you should have a page. So you should have a page because some people use Facebook the same way they use Google. And they go in there and they search Baltimore social media person, and hopefully they find me. And, you know, stuff like that. And it's very interesting because my son, who is 9, uses YouTube that way.
Yeah.
So he searches everything in YouTube first before going to Google. Which leads to some hilarious results of him telling me things that aren't true. But he's learning.
Not everything online, or, you know, anywhere, and for that matter, is the truth.
Right. But so that's why you should have a page, because hopefully if somebody's looking for a flower shop or whatever you are, they might search in Facebook, especially on their phone. I found people use Facebook like a recommendation app. So that's why you should have a page. The group is more for that core audience. Your page is for a big audience. It's for the public. It's for everyone to hopefully find you and discover you and be your friend and be like, you know, draw you in. The group should be that core people that will always buy your knick-knack or whatever you are selling and want to support you and want to, if you all of a sudden decided I'm no longer selling candles, I'm going to sell widgets, they'd be like, okay, I love your candles, so I must love your widget. That's that group of people that we're trying to cultivate and keep.
Yes. That's kind of funny. So, I mean, your son uses YouTube as a search engine, and I tend to use Facebook as a search engine at times, but I typically still always go to Google. That's like my go-to. But I do know that when you Google Facebook pages, and I find Facebook pages come up in your search, unless you're under the videos tab, the YouTube stuff tend to come up. It's always your Facebook page and things like that. So I guess everybody uses things differently, but from a perspective of maybe trying to be found more easily or better, then as far as Google is concerned, yeah, having a page and having that as your solid foundation, like you said, constantly evolving sort of website style information there, that would probably benefit. Yeah.
And there's some studies and they contradict a little bit, but they all say similar thing, like the numbers that contradict a little bit, but they all say the same thing. More and more people want to go to your Facebook page versus your website because it's updated more often. And there's more information on your Facebook page. So, for example, I love this artist who does these little dragon figures, and she has 50 bajillion pictures on Facebook of the dragons. So I can see all the different styles, and, you know, maybe her website has 50 pictures of the dragons, but, you know, I want to go through and see her process, and I want to see how they get shipped and how, you know, all that stuff is on Facebook versus a website, which doesn't get updated as often.
Right.
And I want to make sure that she's still actually making them. And, you know, that her website was from 2012 and maybe she's not making them anymore.
Right. Which brings up something else that we talked about too. So you and I both believe that you don't need to be everywhere.
No.
So
please don't be everywhere.
So give me your thoughts on that, because I know we're both of similar mindset with this one.
Yeah. So my number one piece of advice for people that are doing social media for themselves is find what you love, which social media platform you're the most comfortable on. Unless you really want to reach a specific audience. Like if you want to reach teenagers, being on Facebook will never, ever work. Most teenagers are not on Facebook because their parents are on Facebook. Snapchat
and YouTube and Instagram.
Instagram and yeah. But if your audience is a little broader, age range, whatever, then you can just pick, like, I want to be on Instagram. I love Instagram. That's great because you have to have an inner enthusiasm to keep this going. The number one key for organic social media is consistency. If you're not consistent, if you can't keep it up, then please don't do it.
Thank you.
Because every time you stop and there's a big pause, you lose all that momentum that you had with your organic stuff. So pick one that you like, that you can actually keep up and enjoy and understand intuitively how to update, and then stick with that one and claim your name on all the other ones and put a post that says, hey, if you want to check out my stuff, here's my website. I'm over on Instagram. If that's what we picked, you know. Same with LinkedIn, like, hey, I'm a business owner. Go find me at this website and I'm on Instagram.
Yes. And I think that's great advice, because if you're picking social channels that you are interested in and you enjoy being in, it will be the motivation that you need in order to consistently show up and to be there and tell your story. And you know what I mean? Like if you're picking channels that you're not, like, personally, I'm just not a huge fan of Twitter. I'm there, I play on it every once in a while, but it's like my least favorite thing to do. So, you know, for me to sit down and come up with Twitter posts for the month or whatever, like, I would rather be doing just about anything else. I'd rather go clean the cat's litter box than come up with whatever, you know?
Right.
There's, you know, Facebook and other things like that no problem doing because I like it. I love it, right? Right. Yeah, find something that you love. It will help you with the motivation to stay consistent. You will be motivated to learn how to use it better because you enjoy it. And after that, if you've mastered one thing, then start adding on others as you see fit. Yeah.
And the same thing with the same thing. If you do enjoy Facebook and Facebook pages, and we had talked about Facebook groups, if you feel overwhelmed with your Facebook page right now, don't worry about your Facebook group. Just focus on your page and getting that active and ready, because you want to draw more people in. The people that are your fans will be your fans no matter what. Think of Facebook groups as more of a way to engage and help those people that are super fans of you.
Yeah, and are like already your customers and clients, right? So there's going to be people. So Facebook pages, for one, allow you to do ads. They also allow you to do the organic stuff, right? And that's the discovery and the attraction and getting to build a know, like, and trust. Once you feel like you've got a strong enough pool of people in your page, like you said, then you can introduce a group. Or every time somebody becomes a customer of yours and purchases something from you, you can invite them into a group, right? And that would be a great way to start building a group, maybe, because it's all top of mind. They just worked with you. They've had a positive experience. You say, hey, I have this group and I've created this group because XYZ. You want to join, feel free to join. I personally hate when people just automatically invite me into groups. So
yes, please don't ever do that.
I want your take on that, like, because I feel like lots of people do this. They create groups and then they just invite all their friends into it. Please please tell me that you feel the same way about it.
Yes, it's not effective. If I didn't opt into your group, I will either leave immediately or I will ignore it. So I have a lot of friends who are very, very entrepreneurial minded and love MLMs and drop me into these crazy groups of like, buy my XYZ thing. And I love them and I support them and I wish them well, but I will never buy anything. Mostly because there's like 6 of you selling the same thing and I can't pick one person to support and not do everybody. And I am too poor to do everybody. But if you give them the option of opting in, they're more likely to enjoy it and to engage in it. Because the other thing you need to know about Facebook groups is you need to have content and you need to have a reason for them to be there. So same thing with like, just think of like, would I want to be in my group if I wasn't the business owner? Right. So is there some kind of, do I get exclusives? Do I get advice? Do I get help? Do I get a behind the scenes look that maybe nobody else gets? Do I get free shipping at some point? Like, figure out what that thing is that keeps people motivated to stay in your group. And then, like my group is advice, social media advice for small business owners. Right. That's something that they can get out of, you don't have to hire me. I'll give you a couple of pieces of advice. So whatever that is, if you figure out a reason, because a lot of people make groups and they just put people in them and then it's like, so now what?
Yes. So
what do I get out of this?
Yeah, let's talk about that. Because this applies to both pages and groups. I build content calendars. And so when I mentioned that, you said you do that as well. And you also build content calendars for groups, which I think is something that most people wouldn't even think of because they just think, oh, it's just an ongoing conversation over there. But there needs to be strategy involved with it too. So Facebook groups for a long time were given a lot of love in the feed for the past like month or so, and they're not so much anymore. So the best way, just similar to your page, is to have people engage and comment and like. And so I was running some tests recently to see if likes and reactions got more engagement or comments got more engagement or whatever. Yeah. It's the same. It's the same amount of engagement if I just do comments or if I just do likes. So basically you need people to interact with your stuff in your group. And the best way to do that. Sorry to interrupt. That's just the findings you're getting from a Facebook group, right? That doesn't apply to pages, or do you think it would apply to them as well? Because Brooke is saying he wants people to have meaningful interactions, and sometimes just a like, a thumbs up or a heart isn't that. So by the way, if you're watching, those live viewers, I see you here. Make sure you're commenting and letting us know what you're enjoying and stuff that you're hearing, because this actually helps the Facebook algorithm as well.
Yes. Smash the F out of that heart button, as Landon would say.
I'll let you do it. Yes.
I can steal it.
So are you finding that the results are similar then on a Facebook page as a group for that?
Yes. So comments obviously help a lot, and they help the same amount, which is really interesting to me. Now that was not discussion threading. I asked people to do one comment and that seemed to do the same. So we'll see. I want to do one where it's like, if we have a lot of back and forth, does that change how many people see it?
Yeah, because that's something that Zuck had mentioned when they kind of introduced the new changes in February was that they're going to give priority to more of the back and forth conversation style stuff, whether it's on a page or a group or whatever, or even in your personal feeds. So there is a question here from Mike. I just want to pop it up here. So I start a group, and if I don't invite my friends, how will you know I started it? If it's so small you won't see it, how do people get to your group? You want to touch on that?
Sure. So there's a couple different ways. Hopefully you have enough Facebook friends where you don't have to drop them into the group. You can just say, hey guys, I started a group. I need your help making it big. And they'll be like, I would love to help you, Mike, because you're awesome. And, I did the same thing when I started my group. There's a bunch of people in my group who don't need my advice or help. They're just my friends and they want to support me and they love what I'm doing. So they're there to drop their 2 cents when they have it. And that's about it. Help support me and be in my group. you always need one person for some reason to add to your group. So I always add my husband to the groups that I create.
Sorry, husband. You're the guinea pig.
For a while, I had to add him to all of my pages because I couldn't rename my pages once I was the admin. Like he needed to be like I use him as a guinea pig, basically.
I do have something to add to Mike's question as well. So what I have done in the past, and I found that it was very effective, is I've sent a personal messenger message to my friends or people, inviting them over to a group or inviting them over to something. It's a quick little, hey, so-and-so, you know, I'm doing this. We've worked together in the past and I'd really want to know if you want to join over there and help be a part of whatever. That is way more powerful. Like you got to think back to this basic business networking and being a human being with other human beings. Like, don't just make it a copy and paste, very standard thing, because you can just do that in your personal feed or in your business page feed. Take a few seconds to write a personal note or message or email to somebody that you think would benefit from being in the group or that you think would be an advocate for you, and invite them over there. Being personally invited and kind of given a reason why you want me to be there or why you think I could help you will create that reciprocity that will likely make me go over there and join your group instead of just plunking me in there and being like, you know, no rhyme or reason. It's just like, oh, I'm doing this. Here you are. You're in my group. It's like, I actually leave a ton of groups that way. And it's not because I don't care about what they're doing. I would be an advocate for them, but I kind of get like pissy that they just automatically threw me in there and expecting me to be a part of it.
Yeah, people want the choice. That's why we want the choice to like pick which email list we sign up for. Oh, hi, Vanessa. That's my Vanessa. That we want the choice of, we want the option of being added. And again, if you are trying to build a fan base in a cult, you want them to feel as special as possible. And I say this, and it sounds really cheesy when I say it, but like the more rewards and like offers and favors and praise and thanks and whatever you give to your fan base, the more they're going to show up for you. Because we as humans want that. We want to feel special. We want to feel loved. We want to feel appreciated. And so if you send them a message like Brooke was saying, that's like, hey, Vanessa, you've always been an advocate for me. I love that. And I just started a Facebook group and you could probably be really helpful, or at least just join for a little bit and give me some feedback on what you liked or what you didn't like. You know, that kind of stuff makes people feel special. It makes them feel engaged and wanted. And helped. And I was going to say, the other thing is, don't just put one message up about your Facebook group. Remember that not everybody has seen all of your messages. So wait a little bit and then post again and say, hey guys, maybe you missed it, but I started a Facebook group and you would help me. Like, you know, the average human being needs to see things 7 times to actually do something. So
yeah, and you can be doing little teasers of, oh, I just did this over in my Facebook group. If you're, if you're interested, that's what's happening over there. Like some, like you said, behind the scenes stuff, or, you know, special things. And you can do that to attract people to your page too. And then like build on that further for a group or something like that too. Darn it. There was one thing as we were talking that I kept coming up with in my head. And I'm like, I just wanted to let you finish speaking before I brought it up now. And now it doesn't want to come to me, but it will. It will. Okay.
It's Megan. Hi, Megan.
Ah, she is here. Oh, no, this is a different Megan.
That's a different Megan.
Yeah, okay.
But
so
she's awesome.
Yeah, I feel weird starting a group and asking for friends to join. And you probably feel weird about it because you haven't given it any premise, right? Like if you sent them a private message first, even just saying, I'm doing this, would you like to join? And then you can send them the Facebook group join request or whatever, or plunk them in after they've given you permission. You probably wouldn't feel so icky about it.
It does feel, if you are a person that doesn't like asking for help, then yes, it's going to feel weird. And I am here to empower you to ask for help, because I love helping people that I'm connected with. And I am a little naive in the fact that I think if we've had a conversation where like I have the kids version of friendship. If we had a conversation and I added you on Facebook, we are now friends. So if you ask me for help, if you ask me to join a group, if you ask for my advice, I'm going to give it to you because I love helping. And I found a majority of people, 90% of people love doing that. So don't feel weird. Empower yourself to know that you are worth enough for you to say, hey, would you join my group? And if they say no, then just go, okay, that's not for them.
Right. Right. And that's all about building your cult and your tribe. Like we said before, if they're not interested, that's cool. You can't force somebody to be interested, right? Maybe they just need a few more times of seeing you, getting to know you, and maybe seeing what's going on in that group before they can make that decision for themselves. But even by asking, you've planted that seed, right?
Right. I wrote a series of kids books, and I can give you the negative side of this, of your cult, is I was flabbergasted almost every time that my family members, other than my immediate family, didn't buy my book. And it was like, you know, like of anybody, you would think my family members would buy my book, but they didn't. But the people that did show up, who were awesome, I have to give a shout out to my friend Lisa, who is amazing. I met her through a Facebook app game, and she has bought every single thing that I've ever sold online. You know, that's your tribe. That's your cult. Just because we have a good relationship, or, you know, you're my aunt and uncle, doesn't mean that you're going to show up. And that's okay. Like, it took me a while to realize that was okay. They didn't have to buy my book. You know, it wasn't for them. It was for the people like Lisa who showed up and bought it and wanted it and want the next one and the next one and the next one.
Yes, yes. Awesome. Let's see, what haven't we gone over? Because we talked about Facebook pages and groups, how pages are used more for discovering, and then groups can be used more for deepening that customer relationship and building a community. We talked about millennials. We talked about not being everywhere. I think we've kind of talked about just about everything that we wanted to talk about. Any parting pieces of advice then? Because I really want to come back to this organic marketing, because the whole so the Facebook algorithm applies to everywhere. It applies to your personal newsfeed. It applies to your pages. It applies to your groups, and it's also on Instagram because Facebook owns that too.
Right.
You can't try and be sneaky and beat it, but we can be more strategic and thoughtful about what we're doing. So you got a couple pieces of advice for those of us who are wanting to stay strictly organic, and what we should maybe be focusing on how to do that?
Yeah. So one of the things I think we both had talked about is, don't be afraid to experiment. You're not going to break your Facebook page if you do something a little weird or out there or whatever. I talked about typos. BuzzFeed and a couple other pages were actually specifically making typos to kind of try and experiment with the algorithm. Because there's one thing people like pointing out on the internet, it's typos. So don't feel bad if
grammatical errors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't feel bad if social media, I've always said, is kind of a right brain and a left brain business. So your right brain is the creative, spontaneous craziness that's like, you know, let's just, you know, put 3 hours of paint drying on a wall on Facebook and see what happens, you know. Like, that's, you know, that's fun and that's silly and maybe it works. And then the left brain has to come along and go, so that didn't work. What else can we try? And look at the numbers and look at the analytics and see what the reaction and what the reach was. And so, yeah, that's my number one piece of advice for organic social media, is keep experimenting and playing. You know, for a long time, people told me, don't put text only status updates for your Facebook page. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to play around and see what happens if I do. And I did this for a restaurant client, and it was the 4th highest impressions that we had for a post that month. Yeah.
So I've played with it a little bit too. And yeah, sometimes that, because it's maybe so unexpected, it's all about creating the right mix, right? You can't always post photos. You can't always post, well, I guess you could always post videos or always but it's really good to have a good mix. Yeah.
Right.
Megan says, children's books. Awesome. I've just been looking into this for my husband. So Megan will probably go out to you.
Yeah. I have 5 books. Actually, a couple weeks ago, I went to a library, school library, and did a series of author talks where the school was doing a fundraiser. So if you spent $50, you could have lunch with me. So I had lunch with a bunch of adorable school kids.
Is there anything that you don't really do? Like
marathons. I leave that for my sister. My sister's the marathon person.
You seem to sort of have your finger into a little bit of everything. So
yeah, I mean, it was really funny because I didn't realize it about myself until my senior year of college. I was in our senior class, you know, like the one that like prepares you to finish college. And my professor was like, oh, because most people were either like they were writing or they were print or they were radio or they were video. Mm-hmm. And so he was like, okay, how many of you are writing? And I was raising my hand. And it's like, how many of you are this? And I raised my hand for all of them.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, Tabs is our jack of all trades. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's me.
Sometimes it's hard to put a cap on that creativity, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I like trying. I think my biggest internal motivator I've learned is I don't like saying I don't know. So I'll try almost anything because I want to know how things work and how they, you know, how to do them and all that stuff. So
yeah. And that's never a bad idea because by doing that, you learn something and then you either learn, is this something I like to do and want to do all the time? Or is this something I'm going to start outsourcing?
Right, exactly.
If it's something that's necessary or you think would benefit you in your business. So that's really awesome. Well, I think that we had a really good chat today. I think there's some really good golden nuggets that come out of this conversation. I invite anybody, if they have any questions, to chime in, ask a question. Both Tabitha and I will be following this after the fact as well. So if you're watching the replay, submit your questions or whatever, and we'll get them answered. If anybody wants to find you, where can we find you, Miss Tabs?
Tabs. So I am either Tabs or Soupcom Tabs because at one point I was hailed the supreme commander of the internet. Other people give me titles. It's amazing. So yeah, you can find me. You can find me mostly on Facebook. So if you want to follow over to my Facebook page, I add almost everybody who's, you know, not a jerk to me. So
there you go. There you go. Oh, just a minute here. Oh, Michael Keating says it was awesome. Well, you're welcome, Mike.
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, Mike's really good. He ends up coming onto most of my lives and participating. So he's
yay.
Yes, we're very appreciative of you, Mike, and your time, and thank you very much for participating today. So with that, we're going to let Tabitha get back to all the things that she does. And we'll be keeping tabs on you, Tabs.
Yay.
Yay. All right. Thanks again. That's a wrap. Episode 3.
Yay.
Time to fill my coffee cup. Oh, I missed most of it. I'll have to go back and watch the replay. Absolutely, you will.
Yay. That's the nice thing about Facebook Lives is you can watch it later if you need to.
Absolutely. I'll pin it to the top of the page for the next little bit. And we'll be trying to do these Creative Coffee Cafes every Thursday, give or take, maybe, you know, but that's the plan. Every Thursday, Creative Coffee Cafe over the noon hour. Let's chat about business and marketing and meet some really cool people along the way.
Yay.
All right. Cheers to you, Tabitha. Thanks again for.
All right. Thanks, Brooke.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, Carrie says thank you for all the great information before we go.
Yay, Carrie.